forces that work best when they are not observed. Seeds split open underground. Roots stretch in darkness. The most precise mechanisms of life complete their labor far from applause. In the same way, prosperity obeys what is done without witnesses. You have been taught that action must be seen to be effective, that progress requires evidence. Yet the ancient understanding is opposite. When action is performed for recognition, its power leaks outward. When action is sealed in silence, it concentrates. Invisible action is not inaction. It is movement aligned so deeply with intention that it does not need announcement. It is effort without noise, decision without declaration, preparation without explanation. There is a parable preserved in fragments of old teachings. A quiet builder was commissioned to construct a bridge that would only be used years later. He worked alone at dawn, measuring carefully, reinforcing what no traveler would ever see. Others mocked him for laboring where no one passed. When the floods came, his bridge remained, the visible roads washed away. Your life contains many unseen bridges. This chapter teaches you how to build them. Begin by understanding this. Every time you speak about what you are creating, you release energy prematurely. Words are openings. Silence is containment. Abundance requires containment before release. You are invited into a simple but precise practice. Choose one act each day that supports your prosperity and perform it without letting anyone know. This act should be small, intentional, and repeatable. It might be organizing something that feels neglected, studying quietly, setting aside a modest amount without tracking it obsessively, or refining a skill with no audience. The act itself matters less than the secrecy surrounding it. Before you begin, pause. Place your awareness at the center of your chest. Breathe slowly until the mind softens. Then internally affirm, not aloud, this action is sealed. That is all. No visualization, no emotion. Sealing is neutral. Perform the action with calm attention. Do not rush, do not dramatize. When it is complete, do not review it mentally. Do not congratulate yourself. Completion is enough. This is how invisible action accumulates power. The mind will resist at first. It will want proof, validation, reassurance. This is the old conditioning that equates visibility with value. Let the resistance pass unchallenged. Resistance dissolves when it finds no surface to grip. Over time, you will notice a shift. The urge to explain yourself will lessen. The need to be seen will quiet. In this quiet, precision sharpens. You begin to act from certainty rather than compensation. Invisible action also protects you from interference. Many creations fail not from lack of effort, but from exposure to unaligned attention. When others know your intentions, they unconsciously project their doubts, timelines, and fears. Silence shields the forming structure. There is another layer to this principle, more subtle. Invisible action trains your nervous system to trust delayed response. Prosperity often requires time to reorganize pathways. When you act without expecting immediate return, you signal readiness for larger flows. Impatience is a form of noise. An ancient metaphor describes this well. Water poured slowly into a sealed vessel builds pressure. Water poured into an open bowl evaporates. Your actions are the water. Silence is the vessel. You may notice moments when you want to break the seal, to tell someone what you are doing, to hint, to seek acknowledgement.
Silent
giving.
When this arises,
This
treat
teaching
it as
is
a
among
part
the
of the
most
ritual.
guarded, not
Instead
because
of
it is
speaking,
complex, but
redirect
because
the
it is
energy
easily
inward.
weakened when
Take one
misunderstood.
conscious breath
Giving,
and let
when
the urge
witnessed,
pass.
becomes transaction.
This restraint
Giving, when
strengthens the
spoken
practice.
of, becomes identity. But giving, when hidden, becomes multiplication. In the old traditions, offerings were placed at night, before temples opened, before priests arrived. No one knew who brought them. No one praised the giver. The gift was not a message to others. It was a signal to the unseen order of things, and that order responded. Silent giving is not sacrifice. It is alignment. It is the act of releasing value without attachment to recognition, outcome, or return. When done correctly, it rearranges the inner relationship you have with wealth itself. Most people give in order to feel worthy. You are invited to give because you already are. Begin by understanding the subtle economy at work. Everything you hold carries energy. Money, time, attention, kindness. Each is a form of current. When you allow that current to move without announcing it, you confirm your trust and supply. You tell life, without words, that flow is safe. This is why silent giving must be private. The moment it is seen, the mind begins to calculate. Calculation fractures the ritual. Choose a form of giving that feels natural but slightly stretches you. It should never cause harm or depletion. The stretch is not financial, it is energetic. It is the release of control. This could be a small amount of money left anonymously, a resource shared without attribution, an act of support that cannot be traced back to you, even a prayer held quietly for someone who will never know. What matters is that the giving dissolves identity. Before you give, pause. Place your awareness in the space behind the heart where intention rests without urgency. Internally affirm, "This returns unseen." That is all. Then give. Do not bless the act. Do not imagine reward. Do not wait for a sign. Walk away as if nothing happened. This walking away is the most important part. It severs the cord of expectation. There is an ancient metaphor of a well in the desert. Travelers who poured water into it during the night always found it replenished. Those who poured water by day, hoping to be seen, found it dry. The well responded to secrecy, not generosity alone. Silent giving teaches the nervous system that release does not equal loss. This recalibration is profound. Scarcity lives in the fear that what leaves you diminishes you. Silent giving proves the opposite without argument. At first, you may feel a subtle discomfort after giving, a sense of emptiness. This is not loss, it is space. Space is the womb of abundance. Nature never fills what is already crowded. Resist the urge to fill the space with thoughts. Let it remain open. Something unseen is already responding. There is a second layer to this practice that unfolds over time. Silent giving refines your discernment. You begin to sense when to give and when to withhold without justification. This intuition is not moral, it is energetic. You learn to feel where flow strengthens and where it leaks. Giving does not mean constant generosity. Sacred giving is precise. It moves like water toward what can receive without stagnation. A quiet story is shared among those who practiced this law. A merchant would leave small offerings along his trade routes, never to the same place twice, never in daylight. His wealth grew steadily, without spikes or collapses. When asked why he never gave publicly, he replied, "What sees me does not need convincing. What feeds me does." Your silent giving is not about balance sheets. It is about relationship. You are teaching the unseen that you understand circulation. Do not turn this into routine. Ritual loses potency when mechanical. Let each act of giving arise naturally, guided by inner timing. Sometimes days will pass without one. That is correct. Silence includes restraint. One caution is necessary. Never give in response to guilt or pressure. That is noise disguised as virtue. Silent giving arises from fullness, not obligation. If the body tightens, wait. Giving done from contraction teaches the wrong.
You are now prepared to enter the fourth principle of silent abundance, ritualized solitude. Solitude is not absence, it is presence without interference. The ancient ones did not withdraw from the world to escape it, but to hear what could not speak over noise. They knew that abundance has a frequency too refined for crowded minds. Ritualized solitude is not isolation imposed by circumstance. It is chosen separation, shaped with intention, sealed with reverence. It is the chamber where inner authority is restored. Most people are alone often, yet rarely in solitude. Their minds remain populated with voices, expectations, borrowed urgencies. True solitude begins when the inner crowd disperses. This chapter does not ask you to abandon your life. It asks you to claim a small protected territory within it. Choose a time that belongs only to you. The same time each day if possible, though flexibility is permitted when guided by intuition. Dawn and late night hold ancient stillness, but any hour can be sanctified if approached correctly. Choose a place that will not be interrupted. It need not be elaborate. What matters is consistency. When the same place is used repeatedly, it becomes encoded. The body remembers what happens there. Before entering this solitude, complete a simple threshold ritual. Pause outside the space, take one slow breath, and internally affirm, "I enter without audience." This signals the nervous system that performance is no longer required. Once inside, do nothing at first. Sit or stand comfortably. Let thoughts move without engagement. You are not here to correct the mind, only to remove it from command. As minutes pass, something subtle shifts. The compulsion to think loosens. Sensation becomes clearer. You may notice your breath deepen on its own. This is the body recognizing safety. Solitude reveals a truth that is rarely spoken. Abundance listens only when you stop trying to reach it. In silence, the false timelines dissolve. Urgency loses its grip. You begin to feel the difference between what is necessary and what is habitual striving. This distinction is crucial. Prosperity responds to necessity aligned with purpose, not to frantic desire. There is an ancient image of a king who would remove his crown before entering a private chamber. Only there could he hear counsel that was not flattery. Your solitude is that chamber. Titles, roles, ambitions are set aside at the door. When the inner field settles, begin the core practice of this chapter. Bring your attention to the space just behind your forehead, where intention forms before words. Imagine, not forcefully but gently, that this space opens like a quiet room. Within it, place one simple knowing: I am supported. Do not elaborate, do not visualize outcomes. Support is not a scene, it is a condition. Remain with this knowing. If thoughts interrupt, let them pass like distant footsteps. Return to the knowing without irritation. Irritation is noise. After several minutes, shift your attention to the center of the chest. Feel the rhythm there. Imagine that each breath strengthens an unseen foundation beneath you, like stone laid carefully underground. You are not building upward, you are stabilizing downward. This downward stabilization is a secret of lasting prosperity. What rises without foundation collapses. What is rooted in silence stands. End the solitude without ceremony. Simply stand and leave the space. Do not carry the stillness outward deliberately. Let it accompany you naturally. Ritualized solitude is not about escape. It is about recalibration. Each time you enter, you reset your relationship with effort, time, and worth. You remember that you do not need to prove your value to receive support.
You now
Over
arrive
days
at
and
the
weeks,
fifth principle of silent abundance, sacred timing. This law is rarely taught correctly because it cannot be hurried into usefulness. Sacred timing is not patience as endurance, nor waiting as resignation. It is attunement, the quiet art of moving only when movement is invited. The universe does not reward speed, it responds to resonance. When action is taken before inner readiness, resistance forms. When action is delayed past readiness, opportunity dissolves. Sacred timing lives in the narrow, silent space between these two errors. Ancient calendars were not instruments of measurement alone, they were devotional tools. Certain acts were forbidden outside their appointed hours, not because they were wrong, but because they would be ineffective. A seed planted in the wrong season does not fail from lack of faith, it fails from dissonance. You, too, are seasonal. Much struggle arises from attempting to force outcomes before the inner climate has aligned. Sacred timing asks you to listen more deeply than desire. Desire speaks loudly, timing whispers. To begin understanding this principle, you must first loosen your allegiance to urgency. Urgency is not intuition, it is fear wearing the mask of importance. Sacred timing never feels frantic. It arrives with calm certainty, even when it requires decisive movement. There is a subtle sensation that accompanies correct timing. The body relaxes even as it prepares to act. The breath deepens, thought simplifies. When these signs are absent, timing is likely misaligned. You are invited now into a listening practice. Choose a quiet moment, ideally within your ritualized solitude. Sit comfortably. Let the breath settle naturally. Do not search for answers. Searching creates noise. Bring to mind one area of your life where you desire movement or change. Hold it lightly as you would hold a fragile object. Then release any imagined outcome. Outcomes distort timing. Ask inwardly, not aloud, is this ready to move? Do not answer. Wait. The response will not come as words. It may arrive as a bodily signal. Openness or contraction, warmth or dullness, ease or resistance. Trust this signal more than reasoning. Reason is trained by past patterns. Timing is informed by present coherence. If the response feels closed or unclear, do nothing. This is not denial, it is instruction. Sacred timing often says, "not yet," without explanation. Explanation would invite argument. If the response feels open, proceed gently. Take one small action, not the entire leap. Sacred timing unfolds incrementally. It does not demand total commitment all at once. It confirms itself step by step. There is an old story of a gate that opened only when approached slowly. Those who rushed collided with it, believing it locked. Those who paused found it already open. Timing was the key, not force. You must learn to respect pauses as much as movement. Pauses are not empty, they are organizing. In silence, unseen arrangements are made. People, resources, circumstances reposition themselves without your intervention. When you interrupt this process with impatience, you collapse the architecture before it stabilizes. This is why so much effort produces so little return. Action is taken before the field is ready to receive it. Sacred timing also applies to receiving. Many are prepared to act, but not to accept. They delay allowing abundance because it disrupts their self-concept. Timing requires congruence between inner identity and outer flow. Ask yourself quietly, if what I desire arrived today, would I recognize it as mine? Would I allow it to stay? If hesitation appears, do not correct it, simply observe. Timing waits for internal permission as much as external opportunity. There is a simple ritual that refines your relationship with timing. At the end of each day, in silence, review one moment where you
now
acted
enter
and
the
one.
sixth principle of silent abundance, assumed identity. Before wealth appears as circumstance, it exists as permission, not permission granted by others, nor by systems or lineage, but by the self you silently agree to inhabit. The universe does not negotiate with potential, it responds to identity already assumed. Assumed identity is not pretense, it is not performance. It is the quiet acceptance of a role you stop questioning. What you no longer question begins to operate automatically. In ancient initiations, the moment of transformation was never marked by announcement. The initiate was not told who they were becoming. They were simply treated as if the transformation had already occurred. The old identity dissolved from lack of reinforcement. You are invited into the same process. Most people attempt to manifest from desire. Desire is unstable. It fluctuates with mood, circumstance, and comparison. Identity does not fluctuate. Identity instructs desire. Ask yourself, silently and without judgment, who are you being when no one is watching? Not who you wish to be, not who you are afraid you are, who you consistently return to in private moments. This is the identity the universe is answering. Assumed identity works through familiarity. Whatever feels normal to you becomes sustainable. Whatever feels foreign requires effort to maintain. Abundance that feels foreign will be repelled, even if consciously desired. This is why some receive opportunities only to sabotage them quietly. The identity has not yet adjusted to contain the new frequency. The work here is subtle and precise. You do not attempt to become someone else. You relax into a version of yourself for whom stability, sufficiency, and provision are ordinary, not exciting, ordinary. Excitement introduces volatility. Ordinary introduces permanence. Begin with a private observation ritual. For several days, notice your inner dialogue around money, support, and ease. Do not correct it. Correction introduces force. Simply listen. Pay attention to what you assume without realizing you are assuming. You may notice phrases that repeat internally. This is temporary. I must hold on tightly. It could disappear. I am lucky. Or even, I don't need much. These phrases are not thoughts. They are identity markers. Once you have noticed them, do nothing immediately. Awareness loosens their authority. Now you begin the quiet shift. Choose one assumption to release, not through denial, but through replacement with neutrality. For example, if the assumption is instability, you do not replace it with abundance, you replace it with continuity. Continuity is believable. The nervous system accepts it. In moments of stillness, repeat internally, not as affirmation, but as statement. I continue. That is all. No object, no outcome. Continuity implies support without drama. If the assumption is scarcity, replace it with sufficiency. There is enough for what is required now. This anchors identity in present adequacy rather than future fantasy. Assumed identity strengthens through repetition without emotion. Emotion creates peaks and valleys. Neutral repetition creates baseline. There is an ancient image of a river carving stone, not through force but through constancy. Identity is carved the same way. Another practice refines this principle further. In moments when you receive something, money, assistance, opportunity, rest, notice how you respond internally.
Do you tighten? Do you feel relief mixed with fear? Do you feel unworthy? Or do you feel unremarkable acceptance? Train yourself toward unremarkable acceptance. Silently acknowledge what arrives as if it were expected, not with gratitude, not with excitement. Gratitude can still imply surprise. Surprise suggests misalignment. Acceptance signals congruence. This does not mean you become indifferent. It means you stop signaling disbelief. A quiet parable tells of a woman who inherited wealth unexpectedly. She lost it within years. Later, after a long season of solitude,
There is a moment in every ancient rite when the initiate is taught not how to act, but how to withdraw. The world teaches expansion through visibility. The sacred teaches expansion through containment. What you do next will feel counterintuitive, yet it is the axis upon which silent abundance turns. You are guided now into the principle of ritualized solitude. Solitude is not loneliness. Loneliness is absence. Solitude is presence gathered inward. The ancients did not retreat from the world because it was hostile, but because its noise disrupted the subtle mathematics of inner wealth. They understood that energy organizes itself most efficiently when undisturbed. You have already tasted this in small ways, moments alone when insight arrived unannounced, when clarity formed without effort. These moments were not accidents, they were invitations. Now you learn to formalize them. Choose a space that belongs only to you. It need not be elaborate, it must be consistent. A corner of a room, a chair by a window, a place where your body recognizes safety and quiet. This is not a place of escape, but of alignment. Once chosen, do not explain its purpose to anyone. Its power is sealed by privacy. At the same hour each day, enter this space alone. Time matters here, not because the universe is rigid, but because your nervous system is rhythmic. Sacred timing trains the body to open. When you arrive, do not bring devices, texts, or symbols. You are the instrument. Sit. Let your spine lengthen naturally. Let your breath settle without manipulation. You are not here to visualize yet. First, you must empty the chamber. Thoughts will present themselves. Let them pass as clouds crossing a high sky. Do not follow. Do not argue. Silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of engagement. Remain until the inner static softens. In this softened state, you begin the true work. Bring your awareness to the space just behind your sternum. Imagine, not forcefully, but gently, that this space is hollow, like a vessel waiting to be filled. Do not fill it, simply acknowledge its readiness. This is the womb of abundance. It responds to receptivity, not demand. Here, you assume identity. Not through affirmation, but through recognition. Ask inwardly, without words, who am I when provision is natural? Then listen, not for sentences, but for sensations. Perhaps your shoulders relax, perhaps your breathing deepens, perhaps an unfamiliar calm arrives. These are signatures. They are more reliable than images or thoughts. Stay with them. Let them spread subtly through your body. This is the energetic blueprint of prosperity, not the outcome, but the condition that allows outcomes to crystallize. You are not creating, you are consenting. There is a parable told in fragments among ancient mystics of a well hidden beneath a monastery. The monks never spoke of it. They drew water daily without ceremony. Travelers passed through, unaware of its depth, wondering how the monastery thrived in barren land. The monks understood something the travelers did not. Resources reveal themselves to those who do not advertise their need. Your solitude is that well.
When you leave this space, you carry its alignment quietly into your actions. You do not speak of insights gained. You do not correct others. You do not announce changes. Your restraint becomes a form of protection. Prosperity grows best when unchallenged by external interpretation. Throughout the day, notice where you are tempted to explain yourself. Pause. Silence is not suppression, it is strategic containment. Each time you choose not to speak, you conserve energy. That conserved energy does not disappear, it gathers. In moments of decision, ask inwardly, not aloud, what action aligns
In the
with the
outer
one
world,
who trusts
action is
unseen
measured
support.
by visibility. Movement is equated with proof. Yet the ancient architects of prosperity understood a different equation. The most potent actions are those that leave no trace. When action is witnessed, it becomes entangled with expectation. When it is unseen, it remains pure. You are not asked to do less, you are asked to do differently. There exists a story preserved in fragments about an alchemist who never sold his gold. He lived modestly, worked quietly, and never demonstrated his skill. When asked why, he replied that once a thing is proven, it is no longer protected. His wealth lay not in the metal, but in the mastery that could not be taken from him. Invisible action is mastery without display. Begin to observe your own impulses. Notice how often you feel compelled to be acknowledged for effort, to be validated for progress, to be seen in motion. These impulses are not flaws, they are habits taught by a world that feeds on spectacle. But spectacle scatters power. Your work now is to act without witnesses. Choose one area of your life related to provision, your craft, your finances, your learning, your preparation. Commit to a period of silent refinement. Do not announce goals. Do not share milestones. Let your actions be known only to you. Each morning, before engaging the world, pause briefly. Place your attention on your breath and inwardly affirm, not in words but in feeling, that what you do today does not require recognition to be effective. Let that certainty settle. Then proceed. Work with care, move with intention, complete tasks fully even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. The unseen realm responds not to intention alone, but to consistency enacted without performance. There is an energetic phenomenon that occurs when action is invisible. Resistance diminishes. Doubt from others cannot interfere. Envy has nothing to attach to. Your own impatience quiets. In this containment, momentum builds silently, like pressure beneath the earth. You may begin to sense a strange ease entering your efforts, less friction, fewer obstacles. This is not coincidence. This is alignment responding to discretion. A simple ritual will anchor this principle. At the end of each day, sit alone, close your eyes, recall 3 actions you took that no one else noticed. They need not be grand. A thoughtful decision, a disciplined restraint, a moment of integrity, a quiet completion. Hold each one briefly in awareness. As you do, imagine each action depositing a small measure of light into an unseen treasury within you. Do not visualize outcomes, visualize accumulation. This treasury does not spend immediately, it compounds. Then release the images and rest in stillness. Over time, you will feel a growing sense of internal sufficiency. This is not arrogance, it is independence from applause. When you no longer require confirmation, your actions become cleaner. When your actions are clean, results follow without struggle. Understand this: the universe responds more quickly to what is done without desperation. Invisible action carries no desperation. It is calm. It is assured. It assumes continuity. You may notice a temptation to test this law by breaking silence to see if acknowledgement increases results. Resist this curiosity. Leakage, energy, trust seals it. There will be moments when others overlook your efforts or misunderstand your path. Let this happen. Misinterpretation is a form of camouflage. The most protected work is that which is underestimated. The ancients often disguised power as simplicity. The Tao speaks of water, soft, yielding, unnoticed, yet capable of wearing down mountains. Water does not announce its strength, it demonstrates it over time. So must you. Invisible action also applies to generosity. When you give, give without trace. No
In the
record,
outer
no
teachings of
story,
prosperity,
no
giving is often framed as a transaction, an offering made with the hope of return. But the ancient understanding was far more precise. They knew that when giving is observed, it binds the energy of the gift to identity. When giving is silent, it dissolves identity altogether, allowing circulation to occur without resistance. What circulates freely multiplies. What is attached stagnates. Silent giving is not charity, it is calibration. You are not giving to be virtuous, you are giving to remain unburdened. Wealth, in its purest form, requires internal spaciousness. Possession without release creates congestion. Release without announcement creates flow. There is a reason sacred texts speak of the right hand not knowing what the left hand gives. This is not morality, it is metaphysics. Begin by adjusting your inner posture around giving. Notice when generosity arises accompanied by a desire to be recognized, even subtly, even inwardly. This desire is natural, but it alters the energetic signature of the act. Recognition turns circulation into exchange. Silence restores purity. You are invited now into a simple but potent discipline. Choose one act of giving each week that will never be traced back to you. It may be material, energetic, or practical. It may be assistance offered anonymously, resources placed where they will be found, or support given without identification. The form is less important than the invisibility. Before you give, pause. Place a hand over your heart and inwardly affirm, not in words but in intention, that this act is complete the moment it leaves you. No memory, no ownership, no expectation. Then release it fully. Do not revisit the act afterward. Do not replay it. Do not imagine outcomes. The moment you observe your own generosity, you reclaim it energetically. Let it disappear from your awareness as if it never occurred. This forgetting is not negligence, it is mastery. There is an old parable of a gardener who scattered seeds at night, never returning to the same place twice. In the morning, the land appeared unchanged, yet seasons later, his fields bore abundance in patterns no one could predict. When asked how he planned his planting, he replied that planning was unnecessary once trust was perfected. Your silent giving is seed scattered in darkness. The effect of this practice will not be immediate in obvious ways. Instead, you will notice subtle shifts in your inner climate, a lightness, a reduced anxiety around resources, a quiet confidence that provision is continuous rather than episodic. These are signs of energetic unclogging. Prosperity does not enter where circulation is blocked by fear of loss. Silent giving trains the nervous system to release without panic. In doing so, it teaches the body that there is more than enough. This lesson is not intellectual, it is somatic. The body must learn safety before abundance can stabilize. There is another layer to this practice that must remain unspoken outwardly. When you give silently, you disengage from karmic entanglement. No ledger is kept, no debt is formed. The energy returns not from the recipient, but from the field itself, clean, unpersonalized, and multiplied. This is why ancient benefactors often lived quietly.
Their wealth endured because it was not tied to reputation. Reputation attracts interference. Silence attracts coherence. You may encounter resistance to this practice. A voice may arise asking why effort should go unseen, why contribution should remain hidden. This voice is the residue of a world that confuses acknowledgement with value. Let the voice pass. You are operating under a different law now. At the end of each silent giving act, perform a closing gesture. It need not be elaborate, a slow breath, a moment of stillness, a gentle lowering of the eyes. This signals completion. Ritual marks boundaries. Boundaries protect energy. Over time, you may feel an unexpected joy in this secrecy. Not pride, something quieter. A sense of alignment. A feeling of being in right relationship with an unseen order. This joy is a confirmation, not a reward. Do not
There is a vast difference between delay and incubation. One is imposed from outside, the other is chosen by life itself. Those who do not understand this law often sabotage their own prosperity, not by inaction, but by impatience. You are not late. You are being prepared. In ancient schools of wisdom, initiates were taught that every manifestation passes through invisible seasons. There is a season of conception, a season of rooting, a season of strengthening, and only then a season of visibility. To attempt harvest in the rooting phase is to destroy the crop. Modern thought worships speed. Sacred intelligence honors sequence. You are learning to feel sequence rather than demand results. Sacred timing is not passive waiting, it is active attunement. It requires you to listen for subtle readiness rather than impose personal urgency. This is why silence is essential. Noise obscures timing. Begin to observe how your body responds to the idea of forcing outcomes. Tightness, agitation, restlessness. These are signs of misalignment. Contrast this with moments when you allow life to unfold without interference. The body softens, breath deepens, certainty replaces strain. These sensations are your timing compass. There is a hidden discipline practiced by ancient stewards of wealth. They delayed action even when action was possible, waiting for resonance rather than opportunity. Opportunity can be misleading. Resonance cannot. You are invited now into a private ritual of alignment with sacred timing. Once each week, choose a moment of stillness, preferably in low light or darkness. Sit alone. Place one hand over your lower abdomen, the other over your heart. These are centers of instinct and truth. Close your eyes. Bring to mind one area of your life where you feel urgency around provision or progress. Do not visualize the outcome. Instead, ask inwardly, not with words, but with openness, what phase am I truly in? Then, listen. The answer will not arrive as language. It may arrive as an image of soil or roots or water or stillness. It may arrive as a sense of not yet without explanation. Trust this perception more than timelines you have inherited. Sacred timing reveals itself through symbols, not schedules. When you receive this inner signal, acknowledge it without resistance. Resistance creates friction. Acceptance creates cooperation. Cooperation accelerates growth far more effectively than force.
There is a parable of a watchmaker who refused to rush his work even under pressure. Clients complained, competitors mocked him, yet his timepieces outlasted generations. When asked why he worked so slowly, he replied that time itself cannot be hurried without breaking what measures it. Prosperity is also a measure of time. If you attempt to extract results before the inner structure is stable, the structure collapses under its own weight. Many receive abundance only to lose it because their nervous system was not ready to hold it. Sacred timing protects you from this fate. You are being trained to hold more than you once could. This law also asks you to release comparison. Another's harvest says nothing about your season. Fields planted at different times ripen differently. Envy is simply ignorance of timing. When comparison arises, treat it as a signal to return inward. Ask not, "Why not me?" but "What is strengthening in me now?" That question aligns you with growth rather than grievance. You may feel moments of doubt during this phase. Doubt often arises when the outer world is quiet.
Ancient wisdom never asked the seeker to attract what they desired. It asked them to become the one to whom such things naturally occur. This distinction is subtle yet absolute. Attraction implies distance. Identity implies inevitability. What you consistently assume yourself to be, life confirms without argument. Most people attempt to change circumstances while leaving identity untouched. This creates strain. The outer world resists because the inner signal remains unchanged. Sacred practitioners worked in the opposite direction. They refined identity in silence, allowing circumstances to reorganize on their own. You are invited now into this refinement. Assumed identity is not fantasy, it is orientation. It is the quiet decision to inhabit a posture of being before evidence appears, not through forceful affirmation, but through subtle embodiment. You have already practiced this unknowingly in other areas of life. Consider how easily you inhabit roles you do not question. You do not affirm them daily. You do not convince yourself. You simply are. The body knows. The mind cooperates. The world responds. Prosperity functions the same way. The challenge is not imagining abundance. The challenge is releasing the identity that cannot hold it. Begin with observation. Notice how you internally describe yourself when no one is listening, not aloud, but beneath thought. Do you sense yourself as someone who waits, someone who struggles, someone who hopes but does not expect? These quiet assumptions are not flaws, they are inherited postures. They can be changed only through consistency, not argument. The ancients practiced mirror work not as self-admiration, but as recognition. The mirror was a threshold, not a stage. You are invited into a private ritual. Once each day, stand alone before a mirror. Let the space be quiet. Do not prepare yourself. Do not adjust appearance. Let the moment be unpolished. Look directly into your own eyes. Do not speak. Instead, allow yourself to recognize the version of you for whom provision is normal, not extravagant, not dramatic, normal. Notice what shifts. Perhaps your gaze steadies. Perhaps your breathing slows. Perhaps a subtle dignity emerges. Stay with that sensation. This is not imagination. This is memory awakening.
The body remembers identities long before the mind accepts them. Remain until effort dissolves. When recognition replaces striving, the assumption has taken root. Then step away without commentary. Do not attempt to carry this posture consciously throughout the day. Conscious maintenance creates tension. Instead, allow it to echo naturally. Identity reshapes behavior automatically when left undisturbed. Over time, you may notice small
The
changes,
ancients never practiced
decisions made with
prosperity
less
for
hesitation,
themselves alone.
boundaries
They
held
understood
without
that energy
explanation,
hoarded
a
by one
reduced
life
tolerance
weakens,
for environments
while energy
that drain
aligned
rather
with
than
continuity
support.
strengthens.
These are not
True
strategies;
abundance
they are
is not
consequences.
measured by what is
Assumed
accumulated,
identity
but by what
also
can move
alters how
forward
you interpret
intact,
events.
unspoken,
Delays no longer
undiluted,
feel
and
personal.
alive.
Challenges no longer
Legacy,
feel
in
threatening.
this sense, is
You
not
begin to move
inheritance.
as one who
It is
trusts
transmission.
continuity rather than
Transmission
luck.
does not
This
require
trust
teaching.
is
It
quiet.
requires
It does not
embodiment.
announce itself.
What you
It does not
stabilize
require
within
reassurance.
yourself quietly
There is a
shapes the
parable
field
of a
around
traveler
you.
who carried
Others may
himself
never
like a
know
king
why they
despite
feel
wearing
calmer
simple
in your
robes.
presence, why
Innkeepers
clarity
offered him the
emerges
best
near you,
rooms
why
without knowing
resources
why.
seem to organize
Guards
more
stepped
easily
aside
in
without
shared
question.
space.
He never
You are not
demanded
responsible
respect.
for their
His
outcomes.
posture
You are
assumed it.
responsible only
So
for
it is with
maintaining
abundance.
coherence.
Life responds
This
to
is how sacred
coherence
wealth
more readily
moves
than
through
desire.
generations without
To
being
stabilize
named.
this identity,
There
integrate
is a
subtle
misconception
practice
that
during
legacy
moments of
demands
uncertainty.
visibility,
When doubt
that it
arises
requires
about
recognition,
money, direction,
lineage,
or
or
provision.
documentation. Ancient wisdom knew otherwise. The most powerful transmissions occurred through proximity, not proclamation. Children learned abundance not from instruction, but from nervous systems that felt safe around provision. You are invited now to shift your understanding of impact. Your silence is not isolation. It is influence without distortion. Begin by releasing the idea that you must pass on techniques. Techniques decay when separated from presence. What endures is posture, the way you move through uncertainty, the way you receive without panic, the way you give without depletion. These are absorbed, not taught. There is a quiet ritual for anchoring legacy that requires no audience. Once each month, choose a moment of solitude. Sit alone. Place one hand over your heart, the other over your lower abdomen. These centers hold continuity and instinct. Close your eyes. Bring to mind the idea, not the image, of life extending beyond you. Not specific people, not future scenarios, simply continuity. Let yourself feel the thread of existence moving through you rather than ending with you. Inwardly acknowledge that what you stabilize now becomes part of that thread. Then release the thought completely. This practice removes urgency from success. When urgency dissolves, decisions become cleaner. Clean decisions compound across time. Legacy also requires restraint around storytelling. Resist the urge to narrate your journey, even to yourself. Narratives freeze movement into identity. Identity, once frozen, resists adaptation. Prosperity that cannot adapt does not survive change. Let your life remain fluid. If others ask how you remain steady, answer simply, offer no method. Methods invite imitation without readiness. Readiness cannot be given, it must be cultivated. The ancients protected their teachings by embodying them rather than explaining them. Those who were ready recognized the signal without instruction. You may notice over time that people begin to mirror your calm, your patience, your trust. Do not correct or guide them unless explicitly invited, and even then speak sparingly. Over-guidance creates dependency. Dependency weakens transmission. True transmission empowers without attachment. Another aspect of legacy is how you treat endings. When something completes, a phase, a role, and accumulation, release it cleanly. Do not cling. Clinging teaches fear of loss. Fear of loss poisons inheritance. What you release freely remains available to return in new form. Legacy thrives on non-attachment. The ancients often practiced deliberate anonymity. They built, gave, stabilized, and moved on. Their names faded, their impact remained. You are not asked to disappear, but you are invited to loosen identification with outcomes.
In the outer world, growth is linear. One effort produces one result. But in the unseen realms where true prosperity is governed, growth is exponential. Energy that is coherent multiplies itself. Energy that is fragmented dissipates. The ancients did not ask how to acquire more. They asked how to hold alignment longer. Multiplication followed naturally. Energetic multiplication occurs when what you think, feel, and do no longer contradict each other. This internal agreement creates a resonance that amplifies outcomes without additional force. You have already been preparing for this alignment through silence, solitude, invisible action, and assumed identity. Now these elements begin to compound. Imagine a tuning fork struck in a quiet room. Its vibration fills the space effortlessly. Strike it in a crowded hall, and it is lost. Silence does not create power, it reveals it. Your inner silence now allows your signal to carry. Begin by noticing where you still divide yourself. Moments when your actions say one thing, but your inner state says another. Perhaps you proceed outwardly while inwardly bracing for disappointment. Perhaps you give while secretly fearing loss. These divisions slow multiplication. This is not a call to perfection, it is a call to honesty. Energetic multiplication requires congruence more than positivity. The ancients practiced a discipline known as internal sealing. It was not about affirming success, but about closing energetic loops. When intention, emotion, and behavior align, energy stops leaking. You are invited into this discipline now. Once each day, preferably at night, sit alone in stillness. Bring to mind one intention related to provision, not an outcome, but a state such as stability, ease, or sufficiency. Then scan your body gently. Notice where tension arises. Tension indicates contradiction, not failure, information. Do not correct it. Correction introduces effort. Instead, bring gentle awareness to the sensation. Allow it to soften at its own pace. When the body releases, alignment increases. This release may take days. Let it. Multiplication does not require speed. As alignment stabilizes, you may notice an unusual phenomenon. Small actions yielding disproportionate results. A brief conversation opening doors. A modest decision shifting trajectories. This is energetic leverage at work. Do not celebrate these moments outwardly. Celebration disperses energy. Instead, receive them neutrally. Let multiplication continue unobserved. There is a parable of a monk who planted a single tree and never returned to it. Years later, the tree had seeded an entire forest. When asked how he planned this expansion, he replied that growth was not his task, alignment was. Your task is alignment. Energetic multiplication also requires restraint in where you place attention. Attention is fertilizer. What you focus on grows. Focus on fear, and fear multiplies. Focus on sufficiency, and sufficiency expands. This does not mean denial of challenges, it means refusing to nourish them. When difficulty arises, acknowledge it without dwelling. Address what is necessary quietly, then withdraw attention. Let resolution organize itself. Problems fed by attention often persist. Problems left alone often dissolve. This is not avoidance, it is strategic silence. You may also notice that certain environments, conversations, or media disrupt your internal coherence. They agitate the nervous system, reintroducing fragmentation. Begin to limit exposure without explanation. You owe no one access to your inner climate. Protection preserves multiplication.
Did not separate the sacred from the mundane. They understood that what cannot survive daily life is not yet true. Abundance that requires special conditions is fragile. Abundance that integrates into the ordinary becomes permanent. You are not asked to live differently on the surface. You are asked to inhabit the ordinary differently. Integration is the final protection against collapse. Begin by observing how you move through your day. Notice where attention fragments, where you rush, multitask, or mentally leave the present moment. Fragmentation interrupts coherence. Coherence is the soil of silent prosperity. You are invited to turn small, repeated actions into anchors. Choose 3 ordinary activities you already perform daily: eating, walking, washing, writing, preparing. Choose actions that occur naturally, without effort to remember. These will become your integration points. During each chosen activity, practice full presence. When you eat, eat. When you walk, walk. When you prepare, prepare. Do not overlay intention or affirmation. Simply inhabit the action completely. Let sensation replace thought. This presence stabilizes the nervous system and teaches it continuity. Continuity allows abundance to persist without fluctuation. There is a forgotten teaching that prosperity is not increased by thinking about it more, but by thinking about it less while living more fully. Integration also means removing the sense that wealth exists somewhere else, in the future, in a different version of life, in a different self. When you treat the present moment as incomplete, you train the system to expect lack. Instead, begin to behave gently as though life is already cooperating. This does not mean ignoring responsibilities. It means performing them without resistance. Fold resistance into ritual. For tasks you dislike or avoid, introduce a silent micro-ceremony. Before beginning, pause for one breath. Acknowledge inwardly that this task supports stability, order, or continuity. Then complete it without commentary. Commentary drains energy. Completion builds trust. Trust between you and life is built through follow-through. Integration also requires attention to physical space. The ancients knew that disorder in environment reflects disorder in energy. You are not asked to perfect your surroundings. You are asked to remove stagnation. Choose one small area, a drawer, a surface, a bag. Clear it quietly. Do not dramatize the act. Clearing creates flow. Flow invites movement. Movement attracts provision. As you clear, imagine, not vividly but subtly, that space is making room for what is already on its way. Then forget the thought, trust the gesture. This practice is not superstition, it is somatic signaling. The body learns readiness through action. Integration also includes how you speak internally during ordinary moments. Notice if you narrate scarcity casually, complaints, worries, anticipations of struggle. These narratives, repeated daily, train the subconscious to expect instability.
You are invited to soften this narration without replacing it with forced positivity. When a thought of lack arises, acknowledge it neutrally, then return attention to what is physically present: the feel of the floor, the rhythm of breath, the temperature of air. Reality anchors you in sufficiency. Presence dissolves imagined absence. One of the most important integration practices involves rest. Rest is not reward, it is regulation. Systems that do not rest cannot hold abundance. Overextension
The
leads to
ancients knew
leakage.
that abundance
The
does not
ancients
flow
rested
only through
deliberately,
action.
not
It
lazily.
flows also through
Choose
readiness
moments
to
of
receive.
intentional pause
Yet
throughout your
receiving
day.
is rarely
Short,
passive.
unannounced,
It is a
few
delicate
breaths,
posture of
a gaze out a
openness
window,
that does not
a
grasp,
stillness between
anticipate,
tasks.
or demand.
These pauses
To be
allow
receptive
energy to
is to
consolidate.
align the self with the invisible channels through which provision moves naturally. You are not learning to ask for more. You are learning to inhabit a state that allows what is already moving toward you to settle with ease. Begin by practicing the subtle ritual of inward opening. Sit quietly in your space of solitude. Place your hands gently on your knees or lap. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly, allowing the exhale to release tension. Direct your attention inward and imagine a space in your body prepared to receive, not for a thing, but for energy, possibility, or alignment. This space might feel like a hollow beneath the sternum, a quiet center in the abdomen, or a stillness behind the eyes. Do not fill it, do not name it, simply sense its readiness. This is the vessel of reception. It responds to presence, not craving. Next, scan your inner posture for resistance. Resistance appears as tension, anticipation, doubt, or impatience. These subtle forms of contraction block channels of flow. Greet them quietly. Allow them to soften without forcing release. Each softening strengthens your capacity to receive. There is a parable among ancient mystics. A traveler found a river whose waters could heal and nourish. He tried to forcefully scoop water into a jar, but it spilled at once. Then he learned to cup his hands gently, letting water flow naturally into the vessel. In this way, he gathered more than he had imagined, without struggle. So too must your receptivity be gentle. Receptivity also requires neutrality. When opportunities appear, observe them internally without judgment. Do not categorize them as good or bad. Do not evaluate their size or timing. Let the energy of arrival be noted, acknowledged, and released. Evaluation before assimilation disturbs the flow. Neutral reception preserves it. As part of this practice, cultivate micro-moments of receiving daily. A glance of kindness, a quiet favor, a small inspiration, a subtle insight. These are the practice fields of larger abundance. Recognize them inwardly and let them dissolve. This trains the system to accept without clinging. Silent giving and attuned reception are complementary. Energy circulates when it leaves freely and is absorbed without grasp. Each reinforces the other. The more you give quietly, the more you can receive quietly. The more you receive quietly, the more you can give silently. Another layer of this law is alignment with the flow of timing. Receptivity is never forced. You will encounter moments when opportunities approach before the vessel is ready. Notice these. Do not grasp, observe. Let them wait in energetic space until your inner readiness matches their arrival. This is patience with presence. The ancients used small, repeated gestures to reinforce receptivity. Before opening a door, pausing in the moment to feel the threshold. Before reading a message, pausing to notice the body's response. Before accepting assistance, pausing to feel alignment. Each pause trains subtle perception and strengthens the vessel of reception. Do not rush, do not push.
Allow life to deposit precisely what your alignment can hold. Finally, integrate inward acknowledgement at day's end. Sit quietly. Recall one instance where you received without grasping. Let gratitude arise silently, not as praise, but as recognition of alignment. Then release it. Recognition anchors energy. Release preserves flow. Through sacred reception, all previous laws converge. Your solitude provides space for energy. Your invisible action preserves purity. Your assumed identity holds the vessel, and your attention multiplies and stabilizes flow. Reception ensures that the accumulated energy does
The ancients knew that true work is often unseen. The craftsman does not broadcast each stroke. The alchemist does not reveal every formula. The gardener does not announce the seeds scattered in darkness. The act itself, performed quietly and with intention, is sufficient. Energy, like water, flows naturally through the channels it encounters, and interference only creates turbulence. Invisible action is not avoidance, it is mastery. It is moving without seeking recognition, without expectation, without ego. Begin by noticing areas in your life where effort is often performative, where you act to be seen, to prove, or to influence. These actions, however well-intentioned, dissipate energy. They scatter the subtle currents that sustain silent abundance. You are invited to shift toward invisible action, perform necessary deeds with precision and presence, but without signaling, narrating, or anticipating acknowledgement. Let the universe, rather than witnesses, witness your work. There is a parable preserved in the Hermetic texts. A master poured water into a hidden channel every morning. The villagers never saw the stream, yet over time the valley flourished. Gardens bloomed, and wells never dried. When asked how he achieved such abundance, he replied, "The water flows where it is needed, and I do not concern myself with who sees." Invisible action magnifies impact precisely because it is not attached to outcome. Attachment constrains energy. Detachment releases it. Begin a private practice of this principle daily. Identify one task or act that can be performed silently, perhaps a kind gesture, a work-related task, or an internal alignment practice. Perform it fully. Do not announce. Do not document. Do not internalize as accomplishment. Simply perform and release. As this becomes habitual, you may notice subtle amplification of results. Projects resolve more smoothly, interactions carry more ease, resources appear unexpectedly. The multiplication of energy occurs naturally when it is undisturbed by ego or narrative. Invisible action also applies to thought. Do not overthink the steps toward manifestation. Plan only as necessary. Excessive deliberation creates friction. Trust in your internal alignment and the rhythm of sacred timing. The more effortless the inner motion, the more potent the outer effect. There is a discipline within this law known as micro-invisibility. Throughout the day, act with discretion. Hold silence in conversations where information is not needed. Refrain from explaining decisions that have no external consequence. Let your inner life remain intact. Each act of restraint strengthens the vessel that holds abundance. Energy, once scattered by explanation or justification, requires effort to reconsolidate. Invisible action prevents this unnecessary expenditure. Another practice involves silent observation of others' energy without interference. You may witness opportunities, behaviors, or circumstances that tempt action or correction. Notice without engagement unless absolutely necessary. Sometimes the greatest work is non-intervention.
Influence does not always require manipulation. Presence alone shifts the field. Invisible action is therefore both active and restrained. You do not pause for fear, you pause for precision. You do not refrain from giving, you give quietly. You do not withhold support, you release it in secrecy. At the close of each day, reflect privately on your invisible actions. Recall one instance where you acted without leaving trace. Inwardly acknowledge alignment, then let it dissolve. This consolidation reinforces the field of coherence, making subsequent invisible actions more effective. Over time, you will notice a profound shift. The outer world begins to respond before effort is applied. Synchronization emerges. Events align seamlessly. Circumstances no longer require negotiation. This is the natural outcome of invisible action. The field recognizes harmony and yields without resistance.
The ancients taught that true prosperity is never hoarded. It moves most freely when circulated without expectation of return. Yet giving must be quiet, deliberate, and free from attachment. When generosity is performed for recognition, it becomes a transaction. When it is performed silently, it becomes energy in motion, multiplying without limit. You are not learning to impress, you are learning to release. Begin by noticing where you can give, not only material resources, but time, attention, insight, or energy. The act of giving is not measured by size or visibility. Even the smallest unseen offering contains the seed of abundance when performed without claim. There is a story from Hermetic tradition. A sage planted seeds in the forest, never visiting again. Years later, travelers found a grove of fruit-bearing trees, unaware of the original planter. The sage did not witness the harvest, yet life multiplied what was sown. Your giving functions in the same way. It does not require acknowledgement to produce effect. In fact, recognition often reduces potency, binding the act to ego rather than flow. To cultivate silent generosity, begin with a simple daily ritual. Identify one act of giving you can perform privately. Perhaps a small donation, a kind word offered without expectation, or a supportive thought for someone unseen. Perform the act fully. Do not narrate, do not record, do not anticipate reward. Simply release. Notice the internal sensation of alignment. Giving quietly aligns your energy with the natural current of circulation. The act itself strengthens your vessel, multiplying energy for your own unseen abundance. Giving silently also applies to attention. Listen without judgment. Offer your presence without expectation. Respond without anticipating gratitude. These micro-practices amplify unseen energy just as surely as material offerings. Another aspect of this law is letting go completely. Once the act is performed, release attachment. Do not replay it, revisit it, or seek internal validation. This release ensures that the energy continues its motion, unblocked, and multiplies naturally. The ancients often paired silent giving with ritualized solitude. After giving, they would sit quietly, allowing the energy to integrate inwardly. You are invited to do the same. After each act, pause, breathe, and feel the circulation, without thought or analysis. This consolidates coherence and strengthens the internal vessel. Over time, you may notice that abundance returns in unexpected ways. The world responds to silent circulation. Opportunities, resources, and insight appear without solicitation. Yet these returns are not guaranteed by action alone. They arrive only when giving is aligned with integrity, timing, and presence. A subtle practice for evening reflection reinforces this law. Recall one act of giving performed that day without acknowledgement. Feel the energy of the act resonate inwardly. Recognize that its effect extends beyond perception, then let it dissolve silently. This trains your nervous system to trust the unseen currents of circulation. Remember, giving silently is not sacrifice, it is participation in the natural law of abundance. Energy that flows without interference multiplies. Generosity that remains private strengthens the vessel that receives. You are now moving as the quiet source of circulation, a hidden stream nourishing life without need for recognition. Your abundance grows unseen, steady, and multiplied by your own disciplined private giving.